Chapter 25 Opportunity. After Titania had settled in for the multi-day travel aboard Space Force One, Natalia said to Titania, "I'm a little excited to spend some time in my own country, even though I know I should be more calm and collected. After all, I am your protector." Titania then answers, "Really? I think you should be honest about your feelings because we shouldn't keep secrets from each other, right?" Natalia then paused before answering, "I know, but sometimes being professional means I can't get emotional even when I want to." Maybe that's why Philomena says she can't trust you half the time. But I did a little research on Tanuki and I read your kind can mask your emotions to a more in-heart sense like Philomena's. I also heard your kind tends to hide your emotions under stressful circumstances. And I can only guess how much stress I've put you through. I expect as much being your protector knowing you're 16 years old. But I never expected the kind of circumstances I'd find myself involved with during our adventures. Before I got my current job, I had a pretty simple life working as a data analyst for a government contractor. I also worked at a local bar as a bouncer when I got out of the Air Force. You wouldn't believe how far kids push you to get in, and I'd probably get in trouble if I'd let you drink alcohol under 21 while you're here. Really? I had my first glass of wine when I was 14. Well, my tata taught me how to shoot when I was 14, and if this ran away but America, people would think my dad was training me to be a school shooter. But nonetheless, he pulled out the old 22 long rifle, and when we went out rabbit hunting, I packed my neighbor's barking beagles. Good times if I say so myself. I wasn't a very good shot back in the day, but when I got the proper training, I became one of the best trap shooters on the whole team. My only rival was a guy named Jeremiah Johnson. He was a nice guy, really cared about his sister, even though his ma was a total bitch. I don't think any of the parents liked Selena Johnson because of how she treated her daughter, but I do recall my neighbor telling me the FBI showed up to their house one time when I was out of town. And ever since then, no one has ever heard from Selena or her daughter ever again. By any chance you know what happened to her? I'd love to know more of the story in your childhood. I only know the rumors, but rumor has that Selena was a very wanted criminal, and she was sent to some secluded prison while her daughter went to some mental institution. And according to the FBI police reports from what wasn't redacted, apparently someone shot a .357 Magnum revolver in self-defense and presumably wounded Selena in the act. In any other case, almost none of this would be redacted. We can only guess who the real shooter was, but if I were to guess, I bet it was her husband Samuel, because as far as I know, Selena treated her husband and her children like shit. When I went over to their house one time, I wanted to vomit when I heard the words come out of Selena's mouth. I ain't never seen such an abusive relationship in my life. So I talked to my parents about it, and I called the police when I got home. Maybe that's what led the FBI to start that investigation. Afterwards, I talked to her daughter's friend Sally Mae at school, and not even she knew what was going on. Too bad we'll never know what the whole story was. It sounds pretty tragic, and I hope she's in a better place now. I hope so too, Tanya. I hope so.
Amongst Queen Oriola's royal court was only Umbriel and a few royal guardsmen. Each guard was half vigilant and not paying much attention because nobody else was there. But then Umbriel disturbed the peace and asked Queen Oriana,
"But of all the many indictments you could have railed against your mother, why did you choose one of the lowest to send her to the gulag, and not one of the indictments to send her to the gallows? After all, premeditated attempted murder is a capital offence punishable only by death or life imprisonment. Or why not rail the charges of crimes against humanity for her abuse against the lower caste, especially to those in Caroline? After all, what advantage does our constitutional monarchy have over a dictatorship if we cannot prosecute the royal family to the fullest extent of the law?"
Queen Oriana then answers, "Then riddle me this, Umbriel. Do you beat a sick horse to death in an attempt to heal it? Do you tell your beagle or elven basset hound to not understand the world with its nose?"
Umbriel, with a perplexed expression, asks,
I do not understand. What is the meaning of this riddle?
The sick horse is Queen Paxura, and beating the sick horse to death is punishment for the sake of punishment. I see that there might be a small chance that my mother may be capable of redemption if she admits her own faults and wrongdoing and wants to turn her life around. And if she does not change her mind, harshly punishing her with life in prison is cruel and unusual, and your beagle in Bassettown are the representation of this queendom. To tell the beagle or the Bassettown not to use their nose is to abolish the things in which they are accustomed. Can you make this queendom abolish the forms in which it is accustomed by its own will? Do you understand to have my mother executed, even though it may be just compensation for the life she lived? The civil war that would entail would be so destructive that not even Joshua, with all their military might, could equal it.
And why betray the principles in which you were raised? Were you not taught after a long train of abuses there comes a time when we must alter or abolish the systems in which have abused us?
I do remember, and I still practice those principles I was raised with. That is why I sentenced my mother to prison in the first place. If this were anyone else in my family besides Vixarina in my position, Paxura would have walked scot-free for having almost killed my brother. And although I do not seek to abolish the monarchy, I do seek to reform it. I want to be a queen that serves the well-being of the people of this queendom rather than steal from them like my mother.
For once, I found a queen with a sense of honor, and you are the first queen in my lifetime that hasn't referred to a people as subjects, but rather you seem to refer to them as people. Perhaps your upbringing has rubbed off on you more than you may realize, and I am happy to see that your father has recovered from his unjust stripes.
I'm happy to hear about that news. After all, I wouldn't be the woman I am today without my father. Even though he will never be recognized as part of the royal family, his example he set before me will raise this entire queendom to healing and greatness, and for that, this queendom will be forever grateful.
While docking in orbit over Earth, President Jackson said to Titania in the view of the massive orbital defense grid, "Earth. Taking a 3-day vacation makes it feel like I haven't seen it in years." Titania then asked, "Is that where you're staying? Where's your house from here?" Jackson then points to a continent and says, "In the land of opportunity, land of the free, home of the brave. And thanks to the brave men and women in uniform, we're able to protect this great nation from those that seek to destroy it. And ever since the Space Force was established in 2018, the orbital defense grid was all theory and politics. And now in 2100, this battle station is one of 500 orbital defense platforms, each capable of melting an entire Zolshuran capital ship. And now the orbital defense grid does not only defend America, but the rest of the world as well, even nations we used to consider enemies." "Well, at least I know my father will never make it here." "I'm not sure what you mean by that if he decides to meet me in person. But anything that tries to get past the orbital defense grid unauthorized will not get past in one piece." Natalia then joins President Jackson, Titania, and says, "I understand you're trying to show our military might to the daughter of a foreign king, but don't you think it seems a little out of place for big radioactive stick diplomacy at this moment? Shouldn't we be more concerned with maintaining the peace now that the Zolshuran War is over?" To quote a famous president, "I believe in peace through strength, and as is my policy, we can ensure peace through a constant physical reminder that we are friends in time of peace, but an absolutely terrifying adversary during wartime. But I do have some respect for the Zolshurans for believing in their own country. However, I am still not sure whether it was absolute courage or beyond stupidity to be the only nation to invade America since the British in 1812. Maybe it was because either keep the war on Roxas or cause mutually assured destruction. And the pointless Zolshuran war was as unpopular there as it is here." "There may be something to that, Natalia. But more importantly, I have kept my promise to the American people to end this pointless war. Even though it may take some time before Zalshur becomes an ally, we have at least reached neutrality. And until Zalshur becomes an ally, we cannot afford to let our guard down around them. And as Sylvia looked out the window, and at all the orbital defense platforms and Andrew Jackson-class dreadnoughts, she felt a sickening sensation in her stomach. She thought to herself, "And now I see it more clearly. All your nation ever does is war. Perhaps my people were just one of the many kingdoms you have destroyed, America. And although I was an outcast by society, even the Zalshurans are more like people than whatever you are." Philomena then joined Sylvia and asked, "Hey, are you feeling alright? My heart sense can sense there's something bothering you." "As a matter of fact, something is bothering me. Do you see all these war machines outside? This nation is built on nothing but endless wars and destroying kingdoms." Philomena then gives a synth expression and says, "Hey, I know it may be hard to take in, but I've been to America before, and during my travels never once did I meet someone who was in favor of endless wars. Rather, I've met the opposite. Then why did they destroy the only place I called home, and continue to praise their veterans for their disservice to my people? Perhaps it is important to understand other cultures before making judgments about them. Many people probably don't even know what's going on, and if they did, I bet a lot of this would have ended a lot sooner. It took 20 years of leaking classified documents and personal testimonies from boots on the ground before it was clear the only reason the war kept on going was because of propaganda. And once the people of America realized they were being lied to 3 years ago, that's when things started to change. Demands to end the endless war started happening. And believe me when I say it, American citizens are one of the few classes of people I've met who do not follow leadership blindly. And you can only lie and steal from the American people for so long before they figure out what's going on and you find yourself hanging from an oak tree. Just ask the short-lived and only American dictator Maximilian during the Reign of Terror if you need an example. As for the corrupt officials that were voted out of office this last election, they can no longer walk safely down the street. To be honest, Philomena, I won't believe a word out of your mouth unless I see it with my own eyes." And after a short waiting period, Titania joined President Jackson and Natalia to make their landing to join for dinner at the White House. And once inside the White House dining room, Titania was met with a meal with the tantalizing aroma of a Thanksgiving dinner. And as all the delicious food sat on the table, the aroma salivated her mouth as President Jackson said, "Since you've said you're probably going to stay for a while, I wanted to make a good first impression. I hope you will come to enjoy our customs and new way of life. Until the cultural exchange begins, grab yourself a bowie knife and stab it into some venison for old time's sake."